We have some breaking news from the Washington Capitals organization. Longtime forward Niklas Backstrom had a major hip surgery, could be out for a significant amount of time, and his career could be over. We'll discuss the surgery and the long-term prognosis coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have some breaking news from the Washington Capitals organization. We've learned that center iceman Niklas Backstrom has undergone a pretty significant hip surgery and is facing a very lengthy recovery, and there is a possibility that his career might be over. Obviously, Backstrom, we know at the end of the year, talking to the media, did discuss the fact that he was still having some hip problems. It was not 100%. We know he missed the first couple months of this past season, came back, played the rest of the way through it, but he was dealing with still a lot of pain and discomfort, so he made it known that he could be having more surgery. Wasn't really sure at that point what was going to be taking place. He was going to be seeking some additional opinions, but the Washington Capitals Twitter account today tweeted out that he underwent left hip resurfacing surgery performed in Belgium. He will begin his rehab and is facing a very lengthy recovery process. So obviously that is not good news at all for him. I mean, of all the options here, I guess it's better than hip replacement surgery. Hip replacement surgery is pretty much a guarantee that your career as an athlete at least is over. Yes, you can still have a quality of life can be better depending on what you're dealing with. But as Frank Saravalli pointed out on Twitter shortly after, we've seen a couple of recent NHL players have this surgery, and it essentially ended their careers. Most recently, Duck center Ryan Kesler had this surgery back about 3 years ago. He never returned to play. Spent the remaining time on long-term injury reserve. And then, of course, before that, we had Ed Jovanovski go through the same process. He did make a return, but he only ended up playing like 30-some games and ended up calling her quits because it was just too much for him. So ultimately, here's a little bit more details on hip resurfacing that Frank Saravalli shared on Twitter. Hip resurfacing is a form of hip replacement that helps provide pain relief and helps patients lead a more normal life. Rather than replacing the head of the thigh bone and socket, the femoral head is trimmed down and capped with a smooth metal covering, and then the damaged socket is removed and replaced with a metal shell. Hip resurfacing has given some hope to athletes who struggle with hip issues. So obviously, hip replacement basically essentially means that your career is over. So this is not good news for Niklas Backstrom, where they did not say a timetable. They said no timetable was given. He's facing a lengthy process of recovery. I would probably be quite surprised if Niklas Backstrom played at all in the upcoming 2022-23 NHL season. I think it's fair to say we're going to see the Washington Capitals searching to decide who's going to be their next number 2 center iceman, along with Kuznetsov has been primarily your number 1. So he's likely looking at long-term injury reserve for at least this year. And like I said, we've seen other NHL players go through this and not make a comeback, so it's too early to say. We can't say he won't be back, but it is career-threatening, and unfortunately the odds do appear to be against him, and it's likely going to be at least a year if he does attempt a comeback. So obviously, like I said, that's a big blow to the Washington Capitals. We already seen Tom Wilson have a major surgery at the end of the year here. He's going to be out significant time going into next year as well. So there's a couple key members of your top 6 that are not going to be made available. At the same time, the Washington Capitals today also announced that young defenseman Alex Alexiev also had surgery for a torn labrum, and he's going to be out for 4 to 6 months as well. So he's likely going to be probably missing the beginning of next year as well. Hard to say. If he's closer to the 4-month mark in recovery, then he may be able to go through training camp, but typically it's not 4 months. It usually is closer to 6 with a lot of those types of injuries, and it very well could put him out to be, maybe closer to like December, most likely, before we see a return. I mean, at that point, probably October at the earliest for him, so likely missing camp and at least the beginning of the year. So big blow for Washington. What do they do? How do they react from here? I think it's fair to say you're probably going to see GM Brian McClellan have some additional needs to address. We know he made mention at the end of the year that he wanted to bring in a veteran goaltender to work with one of their young goalies, and one of the young goalies was likely going to be traded, whether it be Vanacek or Samsonov. And now they have a whole other issue here. So we'll see where this goes, but let me know your thoughts. If Backstrom is going to be out, how do the Washington Capitals react? And this could possibly end his quite successful career that he's had in Washington. So let me know your thoughts on everything down in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to this channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with the latest news, rumors, and analysis on all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.